Good morning and welcome back to our coverage from AWS reInvent 2019. We're live from Las Vegas on the Expo show floor here at the Sands Expo. Thanks, off-camera team.
Last day, we made it, everyone.
If you don't speak perfectly while you're up here, we have a full crew on standby, just out of shot, ready to laugh at you, as you just saw that.
Right.
Great. Thanks, guys. So we're going to do some recaps on the keynote this morning with Werner Vogels, the CTO at Amazon.com, and I'm going to be joined by the rest of the team, who I'll introduce in a second to get into that. But before I do that, I just wanted to talk about what we have coming up for you later on stream today. In common with the preceding 2 days, we're going to be digging into some of the service launches here from AWS reInvent and getting some of our subject matter experts, some of the product managers and engineers that have built some of those brand new AWS services to talk you through them. And this morning we're going to be focusing on the AWS chatbot. We're going to be taking a look at the Amazon managed Cassandra service that was announced early this week. We're going to be digging into what's new from AWS developer tools, and we're also going to be focusing on mobile application development using AWS services like AWS Amplify. So that's just before lunch, by the way, so we have a lot more stuff to come after lunch as well. So if you're interested in any of those topics, please stay with us for the rest of this morning, and we'll dive deep into some of those new AWS services. Now, as I said, I'm joined by some extra hosts. My name's Ian from the AWS Developer Relations team, and I am joined by...
I am Matt, also from the Developer Relations team.
I'm MJ from Training and Certification.
And Nick here at the end, been here all week, still on the evangelism team to my knowledge.
Great. So let's just take this fast and loose. What were some of your highlights from this morning's session? Maybe we could start with you, MJ.
Ian, well, I'm loving the Amazon Builders Library, loads of artifacts in there. What did you think, Nick?
Yeah, I think this is an extension of a broader, set of actions we've taken to help open source in many ways the knowledge we've learned here at AWS. I know we've done similar things with some of our internal machine learning knowledge as well, where we've released that through AWS.training, and this is some of the same resources we've used to train internal SDEs at our company. I think actually we could take a look at what the Builders Library looks like. Does that sound good? Yeah. So, I'm not on Extend, unfortunately, so we'll come back to that in just a moment. Sorry about that.
No problem. One of the things we're going to have in the stream today actually is the Builders Library features authors from AWS, some of our most experienced expert engineers and builders here on the team creating some of the services that you will all know and use. And during the course of the day, we're going to be interviewing quite a few of the authors that have contributed content to the Builders Library. So those are going to be in between the longer streaming segments that we'll have for you today. So check those out over the course of the day as well. Nick, did you get your laptop set?
We'll find out if we could switch over. There we go. Second tries the charm. So again, the Amazon Builders Library is going to be a collection of documents, white papers, case studies of how to follow these best design principles when trying to design systems at scale. Looking here through the catalog, you see you can filter from technical depth level, architecture, software delivery and ops, different tags. Let's just click into one of them here. So you can see right here, pretty deep dive on any given example that we have in this repository, code samples as well, so that you can take these best practices and make them actionable at your organization, diagrams, what have you. Pretty in-depth content. And again, this is all available publicly, right, at the URL that I'll post in chat in just a moment.
Really good to see some level 400 stuff dropped in there as well, Nick.
Yeah, sometimes that type of content is gated behind talks at conferences or being able to find the right people to ask, and now I think this Builders Library really enables us to bring that knowledge and disseminate it at scale.
Great, what about you, Matt? What do you think from today's keynote? What were your highlights?
Oh, I'm excited whenever I see Firecracker mentioned. So, yeah, the Firecracker micro VM architecture is super exciting. It's open source, so that's one of the other great things I like about what we're doing now is that we're quite transparent in terms of some of the technologies that we're building, and so anyone can go and clone the Firecracker GitHub repo, and if you're into Rust, I certainly recommend. There's some nice Rust code there. So yeah, I was really impressed with the talk around how the data plane, the Fargate data plane, was rewritten to take advantage of the Firecracker micro VM architecture. So yeah, I'm super happy to see the performance improvements in that space.
following up on Firecracker, there was the announcement of Firecracker Container D.
Container D, which is also open sourced as well.
Yeah, so that I think was new also in the keynote this morning. I mean, going down, I think, so even before that was mentioned, Werner talked about the Nitro system and how the innovations we're making internally are helping customers squeeze a little bit more out of the performance of their containers. I thought it was really interesting how he noted that there are certain parts of VMs that reserve memory for graphics, for example, when in most cases, graphics may be a complete non-factor, but now that's overhead that you're not getting value out of.
Don't have to maintain that all-important VGA compatibility, SVGA compatibility, EVGA compatibility there.
Of course, I'm going to hook up my container and try and visualize it on a a CRT monitor, right? Always need that.
I'm also thankful that most of the people on the stream are probably too young to know what any of those acronyms even mean, which is awesome. So one other thing that we talked about on Nitro. Nitro, by the way, is a silicon-based system, so a hardware-based system that AWS uses to accelerate the performance for virtual machines that are accessing system resources like storage and memory and networking, for example. So in the old days, before this technology was created, you would have a software layer that arbitrated access from your guest machine down into these hardware resources and virtualized networking resources and the like. And with Nitro, those functions have been moved into silicon, which means reduced latency, and it also means improved security controls. And today, Werner quickly recapped a launch announcement that we made on Tuesday, something called Nitro Enclaves. And this is a mechanism for customers to partition off parts of their virtual machine resources, memory and CPU capacity, and lock that in a secure enclave, which can be accessed only via a secure channel from the hosting virtual machine. That provides a mechanism for dealing with things like cryptographically protected materials, cryptographic keys, such that they can be isolated from general system memory. And it can solve problems of separation of duties and isolation of data and cryptographic materials that can be really, really hard to deal with, and also really critical for certain types of use case as well. So Werner also covered that again this morning.
Awesome. What about a lady taking out Deep Racer this morning? Gentlemen, super stoked to see that. Well done, Sola Fumiaki. I saw Goran's tweet this morning, announced that, so super excited. And I've actually got Goran on the Roman camera for CQ Games later, so stoked about that one.
Yeah, and again, this was earlier before Werner's keynote.
Yep.
The Deep Racer Championship, we held that here at reInvent, and we've been having regional events at summits all across the world.
We have.
Where folks can qualify and ultimately earn their spot at the championship race here. So it was exciting to see that, and I didn't get to catch it live personally, but I'll be watching it later because...
Oh, the race?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the race. It was interesting.
Yeah.
I'm certainly looking forward to next year's with the multi-car option.
You're going to step up and enter?
No.
There's a lot of new stuff coming in Deep Racer next year. At reInvent, or actually just before reInvent this year, we announced a new Deep Racer car called the Deep Racer Evo, which takes the format we had before, which was a single camera format, into stereo vision, and also adds a LiDAR sensor on top of the vehicle as well. So you can have a little spinning LiDAR sensor on top of the vehicle for hazard avoidance. And from next year, Deep Racer participants can race against other Deep Racer cars, either in the virtual league or on the track. And of course, having multiple cars on the track could lead to some interesting outcomes. I think that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Totally agree.
I'm just waiting for this next year to have multiple heats for different versions of the cars, so everyone can specialize in exactly which type of technology they're interested in.
That's great.
Lots of possibilities.
What about our guest speakers? What do we think about them? I was quite interested in what was happening in the deep sea.
Yeah?
Oh, the ocean mapping project with Saildrone. Yeah, I thought that was great.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see them launching their new vessel here today that's going to be able to map the ocean floor and see how making that data and using the global network available from AWS enables them to have these drones at each of those different hexagons that they mapped and projected onto the world. And having that global availability to perform analytics and perform compute is critical to that. You don't want to send a drone out in the world and not be able to communicate it with it, right?
Yeah, if you didn't see this morning's keynote, by the way, it's going to be available on YouTube over the course of the next couple of days, and the customer segments are really interesting. There were Saildrone with these autonomous, self-driving well, they're like miniature sailboats, right? Wind-powered sailboats with satellite connectivity, sensors, and then a solar array on top of the boat, which allows it to be self-propelled across the ocean. That was cool. And then we also had Volkswagen, and we had Vanguard, which is a really large asset management investment company here in the US, talking about how they were using AWS services in a really, really innovative way to create new applications for their businesses and for their customers. Well, they were pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the Vanguard session. I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned there if you're a company that resembles their sort of structure or their sort of journey. They actually started off by sending some of their engineers here to reInvent a few years back, it sounded like. And from there, they were able to get top-level buy-in to move to the cloud. And now, they're joined in force by a very large cloud transformation team. And they walk through the steps about how they've gone to try to decouple their monolith and transport their applications from on-prem data centers into the cloud. So a lot of actionables, and it was really cool to see that step-by-step journey that they've undergone. And more than anything, the top-level benefits that they received in the end, right? 30% savings on compute. I think something around the order of 10 to 20x feature velocity increase by moving away from the monolith and on-prem center model, rather. So really exciting stuff that I know a lot of other companies can learn from.
What about architecture? There was quite a big section in this morning's keynote where Werner was focusing on aspects of AWS architecture. Does anyone want to dig into that in a little bit more detail and talk about some of that content again for the viewers?
Well, I think, to some people who are watching, there may be a little bit of rhetoric there, especially around reducing the blast radius. And I like that the message is that this is not something you do, a once-off. It's something that you're continuously trying to optimize in your architectures in order to build resiliency and performance. So I'm glad that message is still at the forefront during our keynotes and our other sessions.
Two things that really jumped out to me when talking about the architecture of some of our internal services. First on EBS, this concept of when we make a service that delivers a certain promise or value to a customer, that doesn't mean that has a one-to-one mapping. So when you're talking about EBS, it's that one piece of EBS volume does not directly correlate to one hard drive, for example, right? And he went down the rabbit hole of describing how we break that into cells and how we have replicate sets, and we have all sorts of systems in place to be able to ensure that simple value proposition is delivered, but has a lot of really specific implementation details that make it resilient and achieve that, that resiliency and availability and durability for your data. The second was S3, one of our first services. And Werner mentioned that when it launched, it had something around 6 microservices powering it. And I think fast forwarding to today, it had something around 262 microservices. Yeah. So when you build around one of these given services from AWS, you're not getting that service with that value exclusively locked in time forever. These services continue to evolve. And with the microservice model that we deploy internally to add that functionality, you can feel safe and secure that this is happening in an iterative and a way that will not cause breaking changes, hopefully, to any developers that are using it.
And when we're adding new features to a service like S3, we're adding collections of microservices that represent the features that are required for that new higher level feature that can be used by customers, right?
Yeah.
And I think we mentioned in the keynote today something like 43 microservices for a service like S3 Access Analyzer, which you announced early this week. So when we're adding capabilities to the platform, we're doing that by adding additional services to that existing collection. Yeah.
So what about the tool space, guys? We saw Amplify for iOS and Android, our one-stop shop for all sorts of builders. What are we thinking about that?
I mean, Amplify's been having a hell of a week.
Yeah.
Native SDKs for iOS and Android.
The data store, you've got a...
you beat me to the punch. Do you want to go into it?
No. I just wanted to take your thunder, but no, the data store is really good, really cool, and being able to have that automatic synchronization of data that is on the client back to the back into the cloud without the developer even having to worry about it, I think it's just huge.
Yeah, that was the big one to me. I think the other one that's maybe a little more niche, but is super exciting in how it works is native interoperability between predictions and AI services with Core ML. So if you're trying to develop native on-device local models for the iOS ecosystem, you need to use Apple's Core ML framework. These are entirely on-device, entirely local. And so this new functionality for predictions in Amplify actually enables you to have native online-offline handoffs between those models and to actually have this sort of meta ensemble where you can, for object detection in images, be able to run that image automatically through both the recognition model as well as the core ML model analog, and it can take the best results from both. So interoperability, online, offline functionality, and more than anything, enables developers to start using machine learning on mobile even quicker.
Let's get to this question from David R7777, who asks about exporting data from the Amplifi Datastore for analytics. So what you're getting with the Amplifi Datastore is an on-device replica of data which is expressed through AppSync, our GraphQL service. So behind that GraphSync expression of your API, then you can have other data stores. That could be DynamoDB, it could be tables in a relational database, or it could be other types of data store that you create and integrate with yourself using Lambda functions that can act as a custom integration facility between GraphQL resources and an external data store. And it's there that you would apply your analytics. So you can integrate DynamoDB data, for example, now with services like Athena, using Athena federated query, or you can use federated queries with Athena or with Redshift together with your data in your relational databases on RDS or other relational services. So yes, you can do analytics on data that's in a Amplifi Datastore, but there isn't really an export step. You're interacting with the same data, just the cloud-based copy of that data.
Yeah. So again, you don't have to learn a new database to work with that data. You just use that as the backing data store on the cloud that your GraphQL resolver through Datastore will sync your data to.
Yeah, the Datastore takes care of synchronization and conflict resolution across those two data sets. Yeah.
All the ugly stuff that you don't want to take care of.
It's easy to get wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. What else? I think another really interesting call out would be the consumer tech and innovations that we've been making there. Werner talked about how we use machine learning sort of from end to end, everything from how much of a type of unit on the retail side we buy to where we distribute it in our regional facilities, and then how we make a promise to customers for what that delivery will look like. This is an extension of topics we spoke about at Remars, one of the earlier conferences we had in the year. But again, tantamount to be able to emphasize that, because that continuously innovates. It's a field where we're constantly looking at. I really liked the demo where we showed some of the video in the fulfillment center with the intelligent routing of the objects for sale on the robots, bringing those sometimes to the fulfillment center employees rather than making people go around. It's sort of unintuitive at first, but once you hit critical mass on the technology to power that, it makes so much sense. I
saw a great talk from Remars about the envisioning for that idea when it was created by Kiva Systems, the robotics company that Amazon acquired. And the executive said that what they had in mind was a teleportation system where you could just keep the person working in the fulfillment center in one place and then have them just grab the inventory items out of the air in front of them magically. And, I mean, that kind of happens, but instead of them being grabbed out of the air, they take them from the robotic system. But you can see how the vision translates into the engineering reality. I think that's cool.
I'm just imagining like a system of pneumatic tubes like in
banks. Up there and
it just comes right out. Yeah, exactly. Also, there on the tail end, Werner finished off strong with the reference to the Now Go Build series. So for anyone that may not have seen that already, does anyone want to cover what Now Go Build it was? Or is? Because there's
so this is Werner's foray into TV output. So the CTO of Amazon traveling around the globe, meeting with organizations, mostly startups and really young companies that are delivering really impactful innovations using AWS technology. One of the cases that he has explored and produced some video material on is about a startup in Indonesia close to Jakarta that is dealing with microloans for agricultural producers, for farmers in Indonesia, to help them avoid some of the predatory practices that are present in the financial market there with loan sharks. So I think there's 4 or 5 episodes now that are out, and each episode Werner visits a different city around the world, different location around the world, explores the startup ecosystem and digs into how AWS technology is being used for good by startups in that city. It's pretty cool. You can find it on the AWS YouTube channel, or just search for Werner Go Build on YouTube and it will pop, I'm sure.
It's also on Amazon Prime now.
Yeah, you can watch it on Prime now as well.
Yeah, so whatever floats your boat, you can find it there. So, what are we looking forward to for the rest of today? I know, Ian, you covered a bunch of those topics that we'll be discussing. Obviously, there have been so many launches at the front of reInvent, and so we still have some of those sessions that we'll be having on today. I know, personally, I'll be on talking a little bit about DocumentDB and some of the newest launches there. We had a launch around change streams, which is functionality we've achieved with some of our other database offerings and has recently come to DocumentDB. So I'll be having some of the folks from that team on. Excited for that one.
And I think Nikki's going to be coming back talking about mobile development and how it just got better with some of the new Amplify announcements. So.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wait, and Nick, you're going to be interviewing Activision later in stream as well, right?
I will be. I mean, you heard it here first, but yeah, we'll be talking to Activision, talking a little bit about the tech that powers their latest Call of Duty Modern Warfare game. So that'll be really exciting.
Are you going to have the game up? Are we going to have the game?
I'm going to keep everyone guessing on that one. So they'll have to tune in to find out. But it's a good one for sure. Definitely
Awesome.
looking forward to it. That'll be at 2:30 if you're interested in that one.
Great stuff. So I think we'll wrap up there, but I would like to say stay with us throughout the rest of the day. We have some awesome content for you. All of our hosts will be back on stream, and of course the rest of the team will be here as well. And as always, if you've got questions, please feel free to ask questions in Twitch chat at any point. Our mods are there during the day, and if we can answer your questions live on stream, well, we'll make every effort to do that as well. Okay, we will see you soon. We will be right back in just a couple of minutes, so don't go away.
Awesome.